Hey, what is up, everyone? This is Ete with another episode of The Company Next Door. Today, we are here in Deland, Florida. This is our first episode here down in Florida on our season 3 across the country. And we're here with Joey Maxwell. How are you, man?
Good morning, Ete. Doing great, man. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me come in and sit down and filming and, spending time.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome to Central Florida.
It's quite nice right now.
Yeah, it's not too bad down here. It's, a little cool for us Floridians, but we'll take it.
Oh, I love it, man. Not so much in the summer, though. It gets pretty rough.
Yeah, you get used to it, though.
Yeah.
You kind of settle into it. Hey, it's like being somewhere cold. It's hot between your house and the car, and then you get in the car and turn the AC on, and you're fine.
Yeah.
Same thing with the cold stuff up north,
Yeah, it's just the reverse.
Right, exactly.
Awesome. So, Joey, you're here in Deland, and your company here, well, there's some cool things that have happened this past year, some exciting things. You're tied into the local theater here. And we were talking a little bit beforehand, I'm just coming to Deland, never hearing of this little town in Florida,
Right.
and really impressed. It's bigger than I thought. There seems to be a really good community of small business. There seems to be a really a cool downtown. You've got the university. What has it been like for you having this company here in town?
It's interesting. By all rights, a company like ours should be in a big city somewhere.
Yeah.
We should be in Orlando. A lot of folks think it would make more sense for us to do something like that. But the fact of the matter is, with commercial film and photography work, the bulk of what we do is off-site. Most everything we do is on location with other businesses. If we're making movies, we're on location somewhere.
Right.
So our physical business presence doesn't really matter where we're at for our larger clients anyway, because we're traveling to them. For us to be anchored in a small town like this, though, makes a big difference for the local community because we're able to work with local small businesses as well as with big brands around the world because we have this physical presence in an amazing town like Deland with such great small business communities.
And like you said, we are, for those of you who don't know where the heck we're talking about, we're about half an hour outside of Orlando or a little more?
Roughly halfway between Daytona and Orlando.
Okay, so within a half an hour, 40 minutes or something, you can get to these bigger cities.
Yes, absolutely.
Have you found it to be a benefit of running the company here in this small area?
Yes, 100%, and that's why we're staying here and continuing to grow here for a couple of reasons. One, it's simply cheaper. I can keep all of my overhead much lower with a physical presence here in Deland than I could in a large city like Orlando.
Right, because, and I'll put some pictures up, but you've got a really cool, like, second-story studio downtown overlooking. We got cool windows. Something like this downtown Orlando would be a fortune.
Absolutely. A similar space in downtown Orlando, because like you said, we've got this loft kind of second floor right in the heart of downtown. If we were to do a similar space, similar square footage in Orlando, it would cost probably 4 times the amount per square foot.
Yeah.
And that's insane.
Right.
And financially, it just doesn't make good business sense to do that.
Right.
Especially when we are within a comfortable commuting distance to a place like Orlando, where there's a tremendous amount of medium and large businesses and potential employees. There's a tremendous amount of talent within a comfortable commute of Deland. So for us financially, it just made a lot more sense to park right here. Plus, we love the town, and I live a mile outside of downtown. I can walk to work.
And that's pretty cool because it does have its own charm. And I think there is, a lot of people I sit down with, location, right? When we talk about business, they always say location, location, location. And this is an interesting one because you've got a great location, but it's not where you would think it has to be, which is downtown.
Right.
And now you're, like you said, you've become part of the community here in a way that has benefited business and also this community.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was really important to me as we developed this business and kind of came into being. Some of my best friends in the world own businesses right here in the middle of downtown.
That's awesome.
And it's a wonderful community of small business owners, plus the theater we're involved with. And we've got very deep roots in this town. So for me to be able to stay here and add something to this community and help the community is really important.
For sure. Now, you weren't originally from here.
No.
We were just talking about that. You I want to talk a little bit about how you got here because I can only laugh because of what you told me and what you're about to tell us. So and let me back up. I didn't even say it. The company's called the Studio Creative Group.
Correct. The Studio Creative Group.
And what you guys do, and you guys just won an Emmy Award.
We did.
So we're gonna come back to that. But that's congratulations. That's really awesome, and that's such an honor. But you weren't in film originally. You had a career path.
I did.
Tell us a little bit about that and where you were coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. So originally, my wife and I both are from Asheville, North Carolina. Wonderful town, great arts
town.
community. Yeah, absolutely. Loved growing up there. Still miss my mountains sometimes. But after I graduated high school, I was involved with voiceover, and I was doing some acting things, photography, some artsy type things. But my career path was much different. So I left high school and moved to Daytona. To go to school at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University.
Gotcha.
And so I went to school and got a degree in aeronautics while continuing kind of, doing my art stuff on the side. But I went to school to become an airline pilot, and that's what I did.
And you did? You flew?
Absolutely. I was an airline pilot based out of Chicago for a while, based out of New York for a while. So I flew airliners around the world. And that was my primary career.
Which many would say going from, that's the dream for many, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So this, to running your own show and film, this could be considered a backwards move for many.
Yes.
We'll get there. Tell us why did it go this way?
It was interesting for me. I had this notion that I needed to go have this big career with the big title, and I loved flying, and I still do. Don't get me wrong. I'm still an aviation nut. I'm a pilot first and foremost. But I realized while I was out on the road as an airline pilot, and you're on the road constantly, I was still doing my freelance voiceover. I was doing editing, photography, videography. I was doing all of those things while I was on the road as an airline pilot. And when I'd get back to the hotel from a trip, I'd sit down and do voiceover. I'd edit video, or do all the stuff that I really enjoyed doing on the side. What I found was that when I got back to these hotels, often on 5 or 6 day trips interspersed with 2 days at home with my wife, I'd get to these hotels in these amazing cities, and I didn't want to leave the hotel because I didn't want to go out and experience these amazing places by myself. And I got at the point where I hated calling my wife and telling her about these amazing things I was seeing, knowing that she couldn't come see it with me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't share it with her, with anybody else. It was just me. And as amazing as it was to have that travel experience, there's something magical about sharing that with someone, and especially with your wife or whoever you love. And so after a while, it really wore on me, being gone that much and not being able to share that with anyone else. So my wife and I together made the decision that it was time for me to leave the airline.
Let me ask you this, and this is kind of jumping into the marriage side of it, but you said something interesting. So you're out there, in a sense, living this dream, and you're in these cities, places that people would dream to go to, and you don't have to pay. That's your job, right? You go out there.
Absolutely.
But you can't enjoy it because your spouse or wife is not there. Was that hard on your marriage, or was it more just hard on you, feeling like, was there a sense of like guilt that I couldn't go out and do it? Or I'm just trying to get a little bit behind how you made that decision together.
It's a great question. My wife, who's just an amazing human being.
She's part of this company.
She is, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
We co-own the company together.
That's awesome. Wow.
She does most of our initial editing work. She actually gets final approval over everything that leaves our doors creatively. She is the last pass on everything before it's delivered.
I can't imagine that. I'm a musician.
Right.
And I am the opposite. I am terrible at sharing things with my wife because of her opinion means so much to me.
Yeah.
So I couldn't imagine having her have to stamp every song before I sent it out.
It's interesting, and
I think it's actually, I actually respect it, and I wish I was that way.
Well, and it's a good point, and I'll circle back to your first question here in a second, but you bring up something I'd love to talk about, and that is the name of the business is the Studio Creative Group. And we can dig into this a little more later if you'd like, but we named it the Creative Group because that is genuinely our philosophy in the creative world. Even though it's my wife and I's name on the business, we sign the checks, we also understand creatively that just because we own the place doesn't mean we have the best ideas or the best vision.
I love this.
That we have a team of people that work with us and for us that bring their own amazing creativity to the table. And so we really, really try to build this sense of creative community within the business and empower everyone that works with us, for us, to bring their ideas. Ultimately, we have to make the decision, but I want all of those ideas before I make that decision.
You're a collaborator.
Oh, absolutely,
I love it.
100%. This work isn't done by committee, but it is done collaboratively.
So to get to the point where your wife had to stamp everything, was that from day one, or was it something where you guys were creating work and then you realized, oh, she's really good at double checking before it goes out the door? Like, was that process built in over time?
It was a very natural process because anything I've ever done creatively, because my wife's also a creative. She's a dance teacher and choreographer, so she has, as a choreographer, she has this amazing eye for creating pictures, right? These pictures of dancers on stage, these moments that happen in the dance. So she has this wonderful creative eye for that sort of thing. So I've always run things past her,
Gotcha.
and I don't just respect her opinion. Her opinion weighs very heavily in what I do because she's so good at seeing things that I might have missed. And I realized very early on in this business that I'm so into the work that I can't always see the forest for the trees, right?
Yeah, you're down in it.
You're right, absolutely. And when you're so close to something like that, it's very hard to open up and see something objectively. So if I'm out filming this work, I have a preconceived notion of what it should be. If I'm editing this work, I have a preconceived notion of what it should be. When I finish that process and put it in front of her, who's looking at it completely objectively, because she's not necessarily married to the creative idea. She's not always on set. She's not a camera operator. She wasn't there as a director of photography. She wasn't in the middle of it. She can look at it with a fresh set of eyes and see things I never would have noticed. And it just makes our work that much better. So that's always kind of been the case.
I love it.
So, circling back to the marriage question you asked,
Yeah.
we have that same relationship in our marriage. She sees things that are going on with me that I may never see, right? She understands me as a human being the same way she understands my creative work, and can give me perspective on things that I wouldn't have seen before myself. So while she was completely fine being an airline pilot's wife and loved many aspects of it, the free travel was fantastic.
Yeah, the consistent paycheck.
Absolutely. There's all kinds of stuff that, it's a tremendous benefit to that life. And she was okay with me being gone. Wow. She's an introvert. She loves spending time by herself and reading, and she's an author, so she writes, and she was perfectly fine with it. But she also understood that I wasn't fulfilled, and she also understood that, one, she was missing out on seeing some of these places I was traveling to, because traveling as an airline pilot's wife is not always easy. She still had work she had to do. It wasn't easy for us to find time just to go play in all these amazing cities. So she missed out on some of that, and she knew that. But she also knew that for me, I wasn't completely fulfilled. Even though I had this amazing career, I wasn't as happy as I could be. So when it came time to make that decision, it was something we did together, and I leaned on her perspective, like I do creatively. I leaned on her perspective to make that huge decision to leave, a 20-year career in the aviation industry.
But I love it, and I love that, I love that you're open. Like you said, I love the group side, the word group in your title, in your company name. It's like we're collaborators. We are looking for great ideas. It's not so much about an ego, which is generally the downfall of most companies, small companies, is the ego of the entrepreneur.
Yes.
I'm not saying you don't have one. I don't know yet, but I'm just kidding. But we know it's in check, right? You have a way to keep it in check. And I think that's great. And I think that's important words of wisdom, is to rely on your team and to value their input and use it to be the best version of the company.
100%. And that's where we do our absolute best work, is when we're firing on all cylinders and everyone can be involved in the process as much as they can be. Now, obviously, we're not going to run this by committee. We're not going to sit down and vote on everything that we're doing. Sure. Somebody has to have ultimate creative control. But I love the ideas. I love that. But the other thing it does for the people that work with us and for us, and I hate saying for us. I don't like that word. These people work with us.
I know.
Nobody works for me. But for the people that work with us, what it does for them is empowers them to be their best creative selves and makes them invested in every project that we do, because they feel like they do have some input. They do have some sense of control over what's going on. And as a matter of fact, the first question I ask anybody that ever comes to apply for a job with us, the very first thing I ask them is, if you could write your dream job description, what would that be? And I do that so I can incorporate their goals and their dreams into their work. I never want to put anyone in a job where they feel undervalued, unappreciated, or they feel like they're doing something just for a paycheck.
Yeah.
I want people to be doing, even if they can't do that full dream job description, which is, it's almost always impossible, but
have elements of it, have
yes,
parts of it. Yeah.
if I can incorporate that into their daily work and make them feel like they're fulfilling some of their own dreams and have the opportunity to do that, why would I not? They're going to be so much happier at work. They're going to be so much more invested. They're going to be thrilled about coming in because they're getting to live at least some part of their dream, if not all of it. And they're going to be fulfilled.
Yeah.
So that's how we run the company.
And that is the secret. I mean, one of the biggest problems that I'm finding, going from company to company is it's often hard to keep a good team together.
Yes.
And I think you said it. Maybe the check is right. Maybe this is right. But it's all about the fulfillment, too. It's about being part of something and being heard. And so what you're saying is, if you can create that in your workspace, you'll have a happy team, which is a happy company and happy clients.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I had a boss years ago, and, some of the other jobs I've had, because I've done a lot of other things, but I had a boss who very much lived and died by the philosophy that money was not a motivator. And that was always what he said. Money's not a motivator. And in his case, he said it because he didn't want to pay people more. He didn't want to give raises. So that was his deal. Money's not a motivator.
Right.
He was wrong. Money's absolutely a motivator. But it should be... people's financial comfort should be the bare minimum standard, right? There's no reason for anyone to come in and work and not be able to take care of themselves financially, right? You come in and work a job full time. That should kind of be the minimum standard. So I kind of understand what he was saying with that, but philosophically, I still think he was wrong.
Right.
You need that, right? You need to be able to give people an opportunity to grow financially and grow in their career and title, because those things are important to people. But they need that. They need to see that there is some opportunity to grow and make themselves better and their life better. But at the same time, he was right in a way that one of the bigger motivators for people is being fulfilled at work. It's doing something they love. And I learned that when I left a full-time stable career to fulfill my dream.
Yeah.
The money wasn't enough.
And you've been doing this company, you said it was about 4 years?
Yeah, so kind of a winding path to get here. When I left the airline...
You were in Daytona at the time.
I was in Daytona.
Okay, because you had relocated.
Yep, absolutely. Wife and I had moved back to Daytona, which was where I'd gone to college, and lived down here. And I was doing the airline thing. I left the airline and didn't immediately start my own production company. I went to the safety net of my old alma mater. And I went to work for Embry-Riddle in production. So I combined the two things that I loved. And I worked with the flight media department, and we created some of the most amazing flight training videos anybody's ever seen.
That's awesome.
So I went to work producing, directing, and flying for flight training videos. And we did some, amazing 2D and 3D animation. We had a camera airplane where we'd strap a bunch of cameras in and outside of the airplane.
That's
I'd
cool.
go fly.
That's cool.
It was it was a lot of fun. So I did that, and spooled up the Studio Creative Group on the side as kind of my own little side business with just, me and Allison working out of the back of my Volvo. I'd go out and do little commercials for, the local community theater. I do small business commercials, little things for the web and for TV. One-man band kind of video production.
Just building up a company on the side.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did that for a while, had some success. We started getting a whole bunch of clients in. I was getting busier than I could really handle with a full-time job as well. Things were starting to get a little crazy. And then my wife and I decided to have a baby.
Because that makes everything easier.
Absolutely, right? We're in the middle of one of the craziest times of our lives.
That's when it happens.
We said, let's have a kid. So we did. After my wife got pregnant, we both realized that if we were gonna have a baby, we both needed to be one, financially secure, obviously, but two, we needed to be creatively fulfilled. We needed to be fulfilled with our lives, and we both realized that there was no way we were going to have a kid and be able to look that kid in the eye for the rest of her life and tell her to live her dream and that she could do whatever she wanted to do, go out and live your dream, which, you know, we very much want her to do. We couldn't do that if we weren't leading by example.
Yeah.
There's no way I could look my daughter in the eye and say, go out and live your dream, if I was slogging away at some job that I hated just for a paycheck. So, with my wife 5 months pregnant, we went out in search of a physical location for the Studio Creative Group. Through the end of my wife's pregnancy, we remodeled this space while I continued working my day job. We remodeled this space in the evenings and on weekends. And 2 days after my daughter was born in July of 2018, I called my boss at the university and resigned.
That's insane.
Yeah. Oh, it was absolutely
It's amazing,
insane.
though. No, yeah.
It was crazy. But the day my daughter was born, I knew a couple of things. One, that idea of being able to live my best life so I could teach her to live her best life.
Yeah,
I had to live and die by that. I knew that. The other thing I knew was that I never again wanted to go back to that life that I had with the airlines or with a day job where I had to get up and leave the house at a certain time every day, be gone from my family, and come home at the end of the day and only have an hour or two with them every day. I knew the minute my daughter was born that I wanted to be there when she woke up every morning to say good morning. And I wanted to be there when she went to bed at night every night, and as much as I could in between that time as well. So opening my own business and being an entrepreneur was the only way I was going to be able to make that happen. And now, you know, pushing 3 years later, with the exception of a couple of days when we've been out on location shooting, I'm there every single morning to get my daughter out of bed, along with my wife, because we both do this full time, and I'm there to put her to bed every night.
And I think that's what it's all about. I mean, I really do. Like, you know, sometimes it's like you said, I mean, there's trade-offs, right? The stress, the pressure of running your own company, all these things, you know, payroll, they can be in, you know, push you to the edge, to say the least. But those, you know, when you step back and say, what is it all about? It's that moment of putting your daughter to bed, you know, and and I've had to make a lot of decisions where I've shoved work out of my life to be there for my kids. Yeah. And I hope, I don't hope, I know it'll pay off. Like, it already has, right? Like, I look at my life every day and I'm like, out of everything I do, that's probably the most important thing. Yet in this day and age, everybody's too busy to do that. And I feel like kids are getting more and more just left to their own. Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, we're fortunate that in the type of business we have, you know, we're not a retail store. It's not like, you know, our doors open to the public. You know, we have clients come in on scheduled, you know, for scheduled meetings and things like that. But because of that, my daughter is able to grow up here at the studio. So if you weren't here today, she'd be here. That's awesome. But at, you know, 2.5, she's running around like a banshee half the time. Mine's 2.5 too.
Oh, okay, so you know. I know. They're crazy right now.
But they're so fun.
Oh my gosh, it's insane. So much fun. I love every minute of it. So she's here with us every day. It's a true family business. I love it. And that's the best thing in the world. I'm able to sit here through all of the stress of work, and it's incredibly stressful sometimes. You know, I'll be head down, buried in my work here at the studio. My wife's doing the same thing, and my daughter's playing in the other room, and I can feel myself, the anxiety building of work and what's going on. And my daughter runs up and says, you know, Daddy, hold me. Yep. And it's gone. Just instantly. Yeah. Everything else is gone. I turn around and hold her, and it's just, I'm done. It's like she knows. She knows when I need it. They do. They do. Mine does that too. What are some of the stresses that you have to deal with over the last 3+ years, you know, building the company, you know, keeping the clients happy? What have been some of the hardships for you that we can learn from? It's, you know, it's interesting. Being an entrepreneur is one of the most satisfying things I've ever done, especially professionally. It is the most satisfying thing I've ever done. There is something amazing and something really freeing, and I think you can probably attest to this as well, about no longer relying on anyone else to dictate your value. Yeah. You just feel like you're in control of, I can make myself more valuable today if I want to. Absolutely. Because when you're working for someone else, not always, but you know, often the case is you're set in a particular pay structure, you're set in a particular growth structure in the job, and your value is dictated to you. No matter how amazing of a job you do or how much extra you work, your paycheck's going to show up and it's going to be the same every time, and maybe a small raise next year. Maybe there's a promotion in a few years for you. But there's only so much you can do to move the needle, right? Yeah. As an entrepreneur, I dictate my worth every day. And I do that by the quality and quantity of my work. The better I work and the harder I work, the more value I create, right? And so that's incredible. Like, that's an amazing thing. It's a really freeing feeling that I am now in charge. It's incredibly scary. So I'm now in charge of that. And so that's amazing. It is also the single most stressful thing I've ever experienced, because that also means the weight of the world is now on my shoulders. Yeah. You know, the paycheck is not guaranteed to come in every 2 weeks. Right. It's up to me to make that happen. I can't just sit back and rest on my laurels. I have to keep pushing forward, and through the stresses that come up, you can't shut down. You don't have the opportunity to just hole up for a couple of weeks. Right. And deal with it quietly. You just have to push through. So for us particularly, there are always dry spells in this business. There are times throughout the year where businesses just stop advertising, or stop buying advertising. They're coming up on the end of the fiscal year. Budgets will be out in February. We can look at doing some stuff in March and April. So the end of the year, beginning of the year is always kind of a dry time for us. Financially, that has almost devastated us a couple of times.
Yeah, for sure.
It's, you try to plan for that. You try to spread out your cash flow and make sure that you've got enough there. But it's made me much more protective of the cash as it comes in. Right? I've got to really think ahead.
Yeah, you got to make it last.
And I've got to think through the next year and really look ahead and be able to forecast what's my budget going to look like. But that's put us in some really, really hard spots. We're having to call the power company at times and get an extension on the power bill so they don't turn off the power.
You do whatever it takes.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you deal with those things, not quite on the daily, but, it's something that you're always thinking about. You're always having to be aware of. If I make this decision at the business, will I be able to pay the mortgage next month? Right. It's constantly in your head. Now, at the same time, we've had these wonderful upswings where we've had longer periods, and the longer we're in business, we have longer and longer periods without those stressors. Sure. But financially, that stress is kind of always there because it is always on me, on us. Yeah. So that's always kind of in the forefront of your mind. From a logistical standpoint, one of the biggest problems we've had is getting busier than we could afford to be. Where we've gotten, and we're in one of those periods right now where we've got so much work coming in and going out that I don't have enough staff to handle all of that work. But at the same time, I don't have the money to hire the full-time people I need.
Yeah, it's not quite enough to staff a full person. Yeah. So everybody just works harder.
Right, everybody just works harder. And fortunately, I've got an amazing team that does that. But that puts a lot of stress on you, too. And then, you get into that point where, now I'm not spending as much time with my daughter. Now I'm, I'm tired when I get home because of this. And, so you run into that quite often. And it's a wonderful problem to have, don't get me wrong. But it's a stressor. Yeah. It adds stress. And then generally just working with clients, especially creatively, that's a tricky business to be in.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, fortunately, because of the brand we've built and the quality of work we've established over the years, and now with the Emmy win, clients are tending to lean back and just trust us. Which is great. So we don't deal with that quite as much anymore. But early on, as we were really establishing ourselves and proving who we were, clients wanted to be, or the types of clients we were getting, wanted to be much more involved in the process.
But as the brand has really taken off, people are just more trusting. They say, hey, you know what you're doing.
Yes,
because so tell us what to do. Yeah.
Now they've seen what we do. Yeah. And so they want what we do.
So let's talk about the Emmy, because that's really exciting. I saw the video on, I don't know if it was on social media somewhere, of you guys watching. Because tell us about the experience, because it was virtual this year.
Yes, it was virtual this year.
What was that like? I mean, getting an Emmy, being virtual.
Look, the whole thing was nuts, and honestly would not have happened without the pandemic. Many businesses have suffered greatly and are gone because of the pandemic. It's been really hard on everybody. It was really hard on us too. But early on during the pandemic, I knew that we had to bob and weave through this, right? We couldn't sit back because the bulk of the business we do is commercial work for small, medium, and large-sized businesses.
Right.
They weren't shooting commercials anymore.
No.
And because of the pandemic, I couldn't bring a big crew together and a big cast together and produce
Physically,
that
you couldn't do it.
Right, physically,
Yeah.
there was no way. So I knew I had to do something. We had to be able to shift in order to keep doing what we do and not close the doors on this place. I got a team that relies on me. You know, I have to keep everybody solvent. So we looked for things we could do. Now, we mentioned earlier, I'm involved in the theater community. I've been a musical theater performer for years. My wife's a musical theater choreographer. We've got relationships with so many theaters in the area and so many theater performers in the area. I am, as it happens, the vice president of the board of directors of the historic Athens Theatre right here in Deland,
And that
Florida.
theater is just down the corner. I was just taking pictures of it because it's so, you're going down the road and it just pops up.
It's a stunning
Yeah, it's-
100-year-old vaudeville theater.
Okay, I was going to say, it is classic. It's amazing. Yeah.
Gorgeous place. And I'm fortunate enough that I'm now the vice president of the board of directors there. So I've got some very close ties with the theater. And as a company, the Studio Creative Group, we sponsor the theater by producing all of the marketing content for the musicals that are produced there at the theater.
Awesome.
So that's kind of our gift to the theater, is producing these
That's
commercials
cool, yeah.
and helping drive people into the seats and sell tickets. But when the pandemic hit, the theater went through the same thing we did, but even worse because we had to shut down. Theaters, and still many theaters are not operating. The arts community has been devastated. So we had to shut the theater down. And that's a big blow to a community theater.
Absolutely.
Right? To a professional theater,
Yeah.
it's a big blow, but especially a community theater. But we've got staff members at the theater. We have a handful of people that are on salary that rely on that theater for their paychecks. So I knew we had to do something to keep the theater going, but I also had to do something to keep my own business going. So myself, the artistic director, executive director at the theater, the Athens Theatre, got together and came up with the idea of doing a virtual cabaret of sorts, a TV-style variety show.
Okay.
Where we knew we had all of these actors and performers that were out of work and not able to do anything. We were all out of work. Everybody was just sitting around with nothing to do. So we said, well, let's put on a show. And that's exactly what we did. We took over the theater for about a week, my production company.
And you set up in the theater?
We set up in the theater.
Okay, gotcha.
3-man crew. Myself on camera, Ted, our post-production supervisor, as our live audio engineer, and then our photographer, Stephanie Mullins, who's also our COO, there to help out on camera side. So there were just 3 of us. And we brought performers in one at a time and put them up on stage, mic'd them up. Of course, we had all the pandemic precautions in place.
Yeah.
Mic'd them up and had our lighting director at the theater at the time light their numbers on the fly. So we'd bring them in for 45 minutes at a time, one performer at a time in the building. We only allowed one person in at a time. They would rehearse their performance once, so the lighting director could figure out what they were going to do and light them on the fly, so I could figure out what I was going to do with camera. And then they had 2 takes to perform a musical number. And we filmed this with
amazing.
4 different camera angles. So we had a moving camera, we had a steady cam on stage.
Yeah.
We had 3 cameras in the house from different angles. So we shot all this with a 4-cam set, 2 takes, recorded their audio live, and then once we had all of the performers, we went through 20 some odd performers for this. The show was about 2 hours long. Then we had a host that we brought in, the whole tuxedoed host, brought him in and filmed all of the intros and outros for each of those performances. With that host by himself. We brought him in and just did all that after we'd filmed all the performers. All of his banter, all of that stuff was filmed after the fact.
Logistically.
It was a nightmare logistically. And then we brought all that back into the studio and spent about 6 weeks editing this massive multicam 2-hour show. Our audio engineer went through and mixed and mastered everything. We edited this whole 4-hour program. A lot of visual effects, a lot of great storytelling, and put together this really amazing, nearly 2-hour online variety show. Sold tickets to it. It was a pay-per-view event.
Wow.
And it was incredible. It was these amazing, talented performers sharing their talents with the world, with the theater, with the Studio Creative Group. Theater was able to make a lot of money off of it. It kept us, paying the people of the theater. And we submitted for an Emmy, and we ended up being nominated for Arts and Entertainment Programming. We got that word in October. And then in December, the award show was online this year, obviously because of the pandemic. They couldn't do it in person. So we gathered for our company Christmas party because we've all been kind of quarantining together. My quarantine. We gathered at Stephanie, our COO's house, for our small company Christmas party and to watch the Emmys.
Were you just so nervous? Were you just sweating it, or were you just happy that you had gotten this far?
It was a completely unique experience.
I mean,
you hear people say all the time, "Oh, it's just an honor to be nominated." It absolutely is. And I walked into that night knowing that saying you're Emmy nominated alone,
that's life-changing.
It's absolutely life-changing. It carries so much weight, and that alone was enough. And that's how I walked into that night, that's enough. That for me to be recognized and nominated, I was good. And it didn't matter what happened. Obviously, the win would have been great. But for me, it was like, it'll be like 10% better. That was how I walked into the night. I was wrong. I was so wrong. And I had no idea how wrong I was. The broadcast started, and I could feel myself getting anxious. And I could feel myself sitting there getting nervous. And I don't get nervous. It's not who I am. I'm not built that way. But I could feel myself getting nervous and anxious. And I could feel the tension. And by the time they got close to our category, my entire team was like, "Joey, are you okay?" Because I don't get like that. And I was like sweating, I couldn't talk to anybody. I was the most anxious I've ever been in my entire life. And I wasn't expecting that at all. It totally caught me off guard. And then you've seen the video on our Facebook page. They announced the category, and they announced the win. The presenter got the first syllable of the name of our program out of his mouth, and we all just erupted.
You knew what it was.
Oh, yeah. You can't. You watch the video, you can't even hear them say our name.
I didn't. I was like, I guess they know they won. I wasn't sure.
You can't even hear it. So we all lost our minds. I cried, which I wasn't expecting. That caught me off guard. Not that I'm one to not. I'm very in touch with my emotions, but I wasn't expecting that. And literally for the next hour, I was tingly, I was numb, I was lightheaded.
Almost like a shock.
100% shock.
Wow.
I have no idea how somebody can go to an award show like that, win, and walk up on stage without falling down.
Really?
So much respect for Jennifer Lawrence falling down when she goes up to the Oscars. I get it.
Yeah.
I would have fallen down walking up to that stage, and I'm not that guy. It took me an hour to calm down enough to be able to record my acceptance speech, because they asked us to record them and upload them. It took me an hour before I could settle down enough to record the acceptance speech.
When did you have to have that in?
That same night.
Okay, so you found one, you just had to go in a room, record it, upload it, and then they would...
Yep, and then they put it out. And so that's what we did. So, about an hour after they announced us, I finally was able to sit down.
Man, but what an exciting moment. I mean, as an artist, that's the moment of validation that every artist is looking for.
That's the word.
It doesn't... And I want to ask you this, but before I do that, for your wife is Allison?
Yes.
What was it like for Allison? Did she have that hour of shock, or was she just...
She did. And this was Emmys are given to an individual, not a company.
Okay.
So my name's on the Emmy because I was the producer director on the project.
Gotcha.
However, BS, that was a company win.
Yeah. This was our Emmy.
Yes, 100. This is not my name's on the thing because they have to put a name on it. It's not mine.
Yeah.
This is a company win. This was a team effort. This was all of us together. So that Emmy is as much Allison's and Ted's and Stephanie's and Kevin's as it is mine. It was the team that won this Emmy. So for all of us who have dedicated our lives to this place and this pursuit that we're in right now, validating is exactly the right word. It was hard leaving my career to do this. It was crazy.
People were probably looking at you, what is wrong with you? You're going to fail.
Absolutely. 2 days after I had a child, I quit a full-time job with a salary and benefits to start my own business. It was insane.
Yeah. On paper.
On paper, absolutely. By all rights, it was the wrong decision.
Absolutely.
That's not what you tell your children to do. That's not what anybody should do. and it's been devastatingly hard at times.
Yeah.
And my team has gone through that with us, right? They have been side by side with us through that journey. So to hear our name called, to hear the Studio Creative Group as the winner of the Emmy for the Arts and Entertainment Program that night, and to see our program on TV as the winner that night was validating. Is not a strong enough word.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It changed the game for us, and it proved to all of us that we're not crazy. We are good at this, and we are doing the right thing. And for me, it was this instant flashback to my daughter being born and me making that decision. And I knew right then that I had done the right thing. I knew up until that point, but that was the ultimate validation that I had done the right thing, and I wasn't just selfish and crazy wanting to go run my own business. I'd done the right thing.
And that's hard to know, because for so many, I mean, think about all the people out there who don't get that type of validation, right? Like,
yes.
As far as like with me, with music, and that's not my full-time thing, but 20 plus years of writing, performing, touring, and that would be the dream, right? And you always tell yourself, if I get the record deal, if I get this, that would just make none of sometimes, because you feel like, have I just wasted 25 years? Like,
right, absolutely.
Does anyone care? Have I added anything to this world by creating art that gets heard by a small group or a business? And so to get that award, it doesn't solve all your problems, I'm sure, but yeah, it's just got to be like, wow, like you said, I'm not crazy. This is the vision that I had.
And arts are so subjective, and this as a musician, you can think in your head all day long, this is really good.
Yeah.
This is really good. But you always wonder, are other people listening to this and quietly to themselves saying, this guy's bad.
Yeah.
Like, this is not good. But they're not going to tell you that because
they're
your friends.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so good. Like, oh, good for you. Like, yay, you did a thing. So that people talk about imposter syndrome and that sort of thing. As an artist, that's always there.
Always.
You can believe with all your heart that it's the best thing that ever happened, but there's still part of you that's like, are they talking smack about my stuff?
And I find that translates into entrepreneurship as well.
Yes.
The imposter syndrome is such a big deal with entrepreneurs.
Yes.
On one moment, we have an Emmy, and then might be the next week we feel like, what am I doing? I can't do anything.
Absolutely. Entrepreneurs are artists. No matter what business you're in, even if you're not in an arts business.
That's true. You're crafting, you're building, you're creating something.
You are creating something from nothing. I don't care if you're painting, writing a song, playing music, making a movie, or starting a manufacturing business. Yeah. You are creating something from nothing. You are a creator. And we all go through and experience the same things, no matter what that art is or what that creation is. We are all creators, and there are a lot of things that are universal within those communities, the arts communities, the entrepreneur communities. There are a lot of universal truths in that, and one of the biggest is we have nearly unflappable confidence in ourselves and what we're doing. And at the same time, in the back of our minds, are always doubting whether or not what we're doing sucks.
Are you reading my journal? I want to jump into that. But before, I want to ask one more question on the Emmy. Mm-hmm. That was about a month, just over a month ago. I mean, because this was December 2020.
Yep.
So now we're mid-January. Has life changed? Because that's the dream, right?
Yes.
If I get this award or this, we're going to be doing this. What is post-Emmy like?
You know what? In some ways it has. More than, it wasn't like Emmy announced, phone rings, $1 million job, everything's good. You know what I mean? That doesn't happen. What happens, though, is a shift in perception, right? It changes the way you're perceived in the industry. It changes the way clients perceive you. It changes the way you perceive yourself. So there's a change in perception. That change in perception increases our perception of value. So it's allowed us to explore doing larger projects and to raise our rates a little bit and give clients more confidence in trusting us to do what we do best.
Confidence. Do you have more confidence in yourself now that you've got that Emmy?
You know what? I've noticed that to some extent, yes, that because I feel a little more validated in what I've done, I do feel a little more confident, and I feel a little more confident in the way I carry myself with a client meeting. Somebody comes in to talk to us. I have less doubt about how that meeting's going to go.
Wow.
And I think as entrepreneurs, we always have those doubts, right? Because you need it.
Yeah.
Right. You
yeah.
want it. You need that client, whatever it is. You're retail. You need that person in the shop to buy something from you. You know, if you're a roofing contractor, you need that client to award you the contract to put a new roof on your house. You need that. And so there's always that sense when you go into a meeting that, am I going to be able to pull this off? Am I going to be able to get this job? Am I going to earn this business? So for me now, of course, I still have that, but I feel much more confident walking in that I can present something to this client that I know is going to help them achieve their own goals. And I feel more confident because of that, I'm going to be able to earn their trust in their business.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Let me ask you this, because there's not a lot of people I get to have this conversation with. How important do you think in 2021, as we get more technologically advanced, more automation, more bot work, how important do you see the arts and creation right now? Is it as important as it was? Is it going to be less or more in the future?
You just set me up for a great segue.
And we didn't practice.
We did not plan that. No, that's a great segue. I believe the arts now are more important than they ever have been, and I think the pandemic has proven that completely. Had this pandemic happened in 2000, we would have all been sitting around our homes playing Snake on our Nokia 2210s. What else would we have done? You know? But instead, in one of the worst crises in recent human history globally, we turned to arts and entertainment to keep us sane. Right? We streamed more television and film than we ever have before. We consumed more media, visual media, podcasts, absolutely, than we ever have before. And businesses, large and small, realized how critically important it was to be able to connect with their clients, their customers online because they could not do it in person. So arts right now, and whether or not people believe it, are more important than they ever have been. And the moment we were able to open up the theater again and bring people back in to see a show, we had people in tears after the show because they'd been shut in their homes for so long without that sort of entertainment and human interaction, and it was so important to them. And people had forgotten how critically important that was. So I would like to think we're on the cusp of a new renaissance where we're going to see these devastated arts and entertainment industries coming back stronger than ever as the world realizes just how important artists and entertainers are to us every single day. I hope. That's what I think, and that's what I believe, and that's why, back to the segue, we are in the process right now of launching an equity campaign to a equity crowdfunding campaign to raise $1 million to build a facility right here in Deland that will encompass not only a full-scale movie industry quality soundstage, but we're also building within that same building 4 photo video studios that are fully equipped for anyone's photo video needs, and we're building it out as a creative co-working space.
Very cool.
So just the way people in big cities are doing creative are co-working, co-working offices and conference rooms and that sort of thing, we're doing the same thing for the creative industry. So podcasters, photographers, videographers, small businesses, YouTubers, anybody will be able to come in and buy a membership and be a part of this creative co-working space where they'll have industry quality light and audio and camera gear that they can come in and create whatever they want, whatever they need to create.
Which, so for someone like me, that's amazing, right? I roll into town. I'm going to have 10 interviews with companies, and they can meet me there.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And you'll have everything you need to do whatever it is you want to do creatively.
Just a few weeks ago, I was back in Philly. I did an interview with called the Gradwell House Studio. It's a recording engineer. It's one of the biggest in the city. And they just bought a Mason church or temple, and they gutted it. 6,000 square foot recording studio with control rooms, and then downstairs 9 individual rooms that bands could rent out. So kind of the similar thing, but they're very geared towards music.
Right.
So you're going to be geared towards creating and content and video.
Yeah.
And one thing I loved about it is there was an energy in that building. We were in one of the rooms, and just musicians and American Idol people, just an energy happened, and it was creating a hub and a scene of itself.
Yes.
So
100%.
that's what you're about to take to the next level.
Absolutely. We already have very deep roots in the creative community.
Wow.
But this harkens back to what we talked about earlier in our company name, the Studio Creative Group. I want to expand that group.
I love the
want
vision.
a much larger creative community inside of that group, and this is the way we're going to build it, is by providing a space where creators of all kinds can come together and share that experience, have the, of course, the equipment and resources they need, but also have the community they need to raise the quality and value of their own work, whether it's recording arts or photography or video or podcasting, whatever it might be. We'll have everything they need under one roof, plus the support for Hollywood-sized film productions.
Yeah.
And we'll be able, through that, to create our own network of creators and collaborators. When we make our movies, now we'll have a whole team of people that'll be available to us, a community of people. So that's what we're doing moving forward because of the pandemic. It really showed us how critically important high quality photo, video, audio content is. And we also saw that there's a lot of low quality stuff out there right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people are just using their cell phones and doing live broadcasts,
right.
and putting out YouTube videos and things. But if they had access to the right stuff
for the right price,
absolutely, think what people could do.
I love it.
Yeah, so that's what we're working on.
I think that's a great vision. I'm excited. I think that's awesome, man. That's really.
It's going to be cool.
So back it up. Tell me, you mentioned you were going to crowdsource this.
Correct.
Can you tell me a little bit about how that will work?
Yeah, it's interesting. So a few years ago, the federal government opened up investing in small businesses, startup businesses. So used to be, you had to be what was known as an accredited investor. You had to have a certain net worth, a certain amount of wealth before you could invest in a business. You hear people talk about angel investors and venture capitalists and that sort of stuff. There's a very limited number of people around the country that could do that because you had to qualify financially to be able to do it. But the federal government and the Securities Exchange Commission opened up what is now known as Regulation C crowdfunding. So you can think about it like GoFundMe, but instead of donating money to a company, you have the opportunity to invest in a company.
Really? So you said equity. So this will be open.
Yes.
So they're like little shareholders.
Absolutely. So anybody around the country, depending on the company you're investing in, and we're still finalizing our offering this week, but for as little as about $100, you could purchase equity in a company through an equity crowdfunding platform.
This is really interesting.
And so that's what we're doing, and we're in the final stages of that process this week. Hopefully by next week we'll be live with that campaign. Wow. But we're opening up, we're trying to raise $1 million in equity. We're not looking for donations. We're not asking for a handout.
You're getting something for it.
Absolutely. You're getting, equity in this new venture in exchange for your money. We're not sending you a T-shirt and a thank you.
Yeah.
Like
a Kickstarter or something.
You're right,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, we do have some of that stuff built in, too, so you get that on top of your equity. But you're actually getting equity. It's crowd-funded equity.
Wow.
Where it used to be, you couldn't do that. Not just anybody could invest,
right.
But now, anybody can. And so that's the route we're going. And we're doing that, again, because we are a collaborative business. We're a group. And we want our stakeholders to have that sense of ownership, just like our team does.
Wow.
We want everybody to feel like, man, this is our place. We did this together. And that's what we're going for. And same thing with our members. When we're finally able to open up and bring members in and have, our clients and members in the building, we want them to feel that sense of ownership and pride in the place. And
in the community, right? Because that ties everybody in.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is so powerful.
Absolutely. So that's one of the things we're actually building out through the software to run a co-working space like that. It's pretty intense, right? You've got to have a pretty robust back-end system. But we're building into that a community within the app where our creators can can share with each other within that, and find extra team members. And hey, man, I need a
man,
photographer's assistant. I need an audio
So
guy. And
you're getting me excited, man. Like this is, because I've been down. 2020 is what it is. But from the musician side, I've been a bit down because all my friends that are full-time musicians can't go on the road. They lost. There's no money.
right.
And I've been waiting and looking for creative solutions. And you're doing it. You're sitting in this little town creating solutions for the industry.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal.
This is fantastic.
It's for us when we had the realization, we've been working on this. We started working on it before the pandemic.
Sure.
And it's a tremendous amount of business planning that goes into something like this. The financial
the scope
side,
of it is mad.
it's insane. And we've done all the due diligence. We've got 5 years worth of summary pro formas built out and budgets and the whole thing. But the fun part has been the creative side and thinking about what kind of classes can we offer to our members where we're raising up the creative community by offering classes and workshops and master classes and hands-on experiences with equipment and with things that maybe they've never tried before, and giving people the opportunity to learn and grow through the art. So we're also building out recording studios in the space. We'll have the audio side of it. We can have people come in and try out microphones or come in and record and try their hand at mixing if they want. We're building out a computer lab that we're going to have decked out with a whole bunch of editing machines built for high-level video editing and rendering, photo editing, all that, staffed by our team, which are all professional editors that can help out. So somebody comes in and says, "Oh man, I recorded this. I really want to do something fun with the edit." We'll have a team member there in the computer lab that can come in as a lab assistant and help out. Somebody, a photographer wanting to try their hand at strobes for the first time. They've never been a strobist. They've always been a natural light photographer. Well, now they can come in as part of their membership, take an hour of their allotted studio time. We'll bring in the gear. We'll bring in a studio tech who'll come in and help guide them through the process, and they can test and play and grow and get better and stronger. And we're really looking at, because, like I said, I think we're on the cusp of a new renaissance.
Yeah.
I want to help support that and raise creators up and give them a place where they can come together as a community and learn and grow and create amazing things together.
So, all right, this is amazing. Thank you for that. I'm so excited about this idea.
Thank you.
I'm so excited about this idea. This is a great solution. It brings me to a question. My last kind of question on this topic. What do you? Because you said earlier you wanted to, when you had your daughter, you needed. I'm trying to go back in my head here, but
right.
The way you said it was something like, I needed to walk the walk. If I couldn't tell her to live her dreams, if I wasn't out there creating and living mine, something to that effect.
Yes, absolutely.
What happens to people, to communities, to societies when we stop creating?
I think everything grinds to a halt. I think that creators are responsible for everything important. Everything that really matters comes from people who are willing to create it. And again, that doesn't have to be art specific.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But everything that really matters comes from people who are willing to create that. And everything that we really love and value comes from people willing to do that sort of thing. And you don't have to be, a huge innovator. You don't have to go out and start a business.
Right.
You can work for other people and still be a creator. Even if you're, an accountant, working at a firm somewhere, looking at another client's, financials, you may be creating a financial opportunity for that business owner that they didn't see before because they didn't know. So you're still creating something. But that's where the magic really happens. And entrepreneurs, artists, entertainers, we're all the same breed. And we're all working towards the same goal in many ways. And that is that selfishly it's self-fulfillment. But I don't think that most creators, entertainers, entrepreneurs are selfish. I think that they do these things because they want to add something to society.
Yeah.
They want to make other people better. They want to give people job opportunities. They want to provide a product or a service that's going to help someone's life somewhere. I really think that's what ties us all together, is that idea.
Do you feel like you've added something to society, or are you still on that mission? Have you achieved success? What is success?
No, that's a great question. It's funny because it's one of those things people ask. It's a moving target. no, I will never be completely successful. I will never succeed. Let me put it that way. I will never stop. There's always going to be something else, that another opportunity where I see I can do something else. I can try something else. I can keep growing. I can keep learning. I can keep changing. I'm constantly looking for ways to learn and grow and be better and try something new and different. And that's never going to stop. So no, I will never be fully satisfied. I'll never be done.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to learn. It
is.
took me a long time.
So, because some people, they don't understand that.
Right.
I've had people say, well, why don't you just stop? Why do you have to be so busy? And I try to explain what you just said.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't.
I can't. Like, I got like this calling or something that I've got to keep going.
Yeah. If I slow down, that's it. I die. Like, I can't. I can't sit still. I can't sit my brain still. I'm always going to be working on something new, something different, something better. That's what I tell my people here. Every project we put out has to be better than the last in some way. It's got to be more creative, more fun, more entertaining, technically better. Like, everything needs to be better than everything else we've done. Because otherwise, why are we doing it? If we're just going to keep doing the same stuff over and over, why bother? We should always be striving to do something better in whatever way that is. And so I think, career-wise, life-wise, company-wise, it's kind of always going to be the thing. If I'm ever done, then
I'm done.
I'm done. Right.
I'm going in the grave.
Absolutely. That's it. I won't ever stop. And I hope my daughter sees that. And I hope that it's not, let me back up. It's not that I'm never satisfied. I'm always fulfilled because of what I do.
Yeah.
It's the work that's fulfilling. It's not the end goal that's fulfilling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's this journey. It's not so much this outcome of an exact thing happening.
The Emmy was incredibly satisfying, but it didn't completely fulfill me. I can't stop there.
Right.
I'm always going to be working towards whatever that next goal is, because that's the fulfilling part. It's the work. It's the creation process that's fulfilling. So yeah.
If your daughter, she's 2.5, so she's young.
You're right.
But let's fast forward in 18, 20 years, whatever. And she says, Dad, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start a company.
Yeah.
What would you say to her?
Go. And go at it with everything you've got. And that's kind of become my philosophy on life. My parents had that traditional kind of goal set for me as a kid. And so I didn't learn that early on. It took me much later in life to learn that. I am not the type of person, and there are a lot of people that are, and that's okay. Me personally, I don't believe that you have to do just one thing for the rest of your life. If you want to, that's great. Go do it. Be amazing and do your thing. I don't think that's what this world is all about. I don't want to travel to the Grand Canyon, see it, and feel like, okay, I'm done. I've traveled. I've seen that thing.
Check.
Good. I don't need to see anything else. No, there's so many more things to explore. I want to learn how to play the guitar. I want to travel to the Bahamas. I want to, make movies. I want to do, there's so many things. So for my daughter, if she gets to that point and she wants to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to tell her, yes, whatever you do, give it everything to see whether or not it is truly something you want and need to be doing. And if it is just for a little while and it stops being satisfying, leave the airline job and go do something that's really going to fulfill you.
That's good advice.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if 30 years from now I'm still going to be doing this. 20 years from now I'm still going to be doing this. I don't know. And I'm okay with that. I'm excited to see where I go next.
It's the journey.
Right, absolutely. And that's what I'm going to tell my daughter. Journey, but journey hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Journey hard. I like that one. It's like, some people say rock on, journey hard.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, kind of winding down here. What's the legacy that you hope to live, that you are building? I mean, we've been talking about, creation. We've been talking about building this company and the future and this vision that you have, which is amazing and exciting and really great. At the end of it, do you know what your legacy is that you want to leave behind? You talked about wanting to leave a mark.
I do. I know exactly what it is. And I've only really just learned it recently. And I've been talking to people about it the past few days. It's really kind of come to me. When I started this business, I thought that I was going to further my acting career, have some chance to do some stuff on camera. I thought directing would be fun. I would enjoy that. Camera work, I've always been a camera guy, so I thought that, director of photography stuff would be fun. There are parts and pieces of the industry that I really enjoyed, and I thought that was kind of where I would make my mark, right? As a director, as a cinematographer, as an actor, like that's where I was going to make my mark. What I've come to realize is, if we go back to one of the first things that you and I talked about, the first question I ask everybody when they walk in this door to come work with us: what's your dream job description? And so I've come to realize that what's really satisfying for me, and what I hope my mark will be, is giving people the opportunity to write and live their own dreams. So having a production company that gives filmmakers the opportunity to make the movie they always wanted to make, to give a camera operator the chance to be a director of photography that he always wanted to be, to give a photographer the chance to shoot those images that they've always wanted to shoot, to give people the chance to create what they want to create in the best way possible. For me to help facilitate that, to guide that, to help them grow and be better and live their own dream, that's the end game for me. That's the mark that I want to leave. It's not necessarily a single film or a single library of films or anything specific like that. It's much more ethereal. It's much more just, I want to make sure that when I'm done, the people behind me are better because I was here and they were able to fulfill their own dreams and their own goals because I was here to help them do that.
That's awesome. My last question on that, and then I have a fun question,
Okay.
is what do you say to the creator, whether it's videographer, musician, YouTuber, content marketer, whatever, who's discouraged right now, who's got this vision? You have a vision to build this incredible hub. What do you say to them that they're just discouraged and they're struggling? You've mentioned, it's been hard the last few years running this company.
Absolutely.
To the point of like, man, what do you say to them, to the person that's listening that is in that spot?
Don't stop. Don't pause. However, shift. When I myself get into those places where I still do, where I get ground down and my anxiety builds and I feel like I can't function, I can't move, I can't breathe, I can't do these things right now. I find something else to do in the same vein of what I'm doing that's fun, that breaks me out of it. So instead of digging into the work harder, that's just going to make me more miserable. I dig into some other kind of work or something in the same vein, the stuff that I love that made me fall in love with this business. I go out and do that. I get my camera out and I chase my daughter around the backyard at sunset and get beautiful light rays coming through the trees, following my daughter around the backyard. And a few minutes of that and the inspiration, the creativity comes back to me. The motivation comes back to me. So, don't stop. Don't ever stop, but shift. Find something else to do that'll get those creative juices flowing whether again. It's business or arts or whatever. Do something that will get it going again. Go back to what it is that makes you love this. Do that, and then come back to the work.
Awesome. That's great advice. All right, I'm going to alter my final question because this has been my season 3 final question. So people who listen, they know what's coming. And this is the one that everybody has to think about. Sorry, but I'm going to alter because of the situation. So you're stuck on an island. So you're on an island, and normally the question is you can bring with you one meal, one book, and one album, but we're going to add in one film.
Okay.
Because we got to.
Okay.
So you're on an island.
Yep.
Meal, album, book, film.
Meal, album, book, and film.
Doesn't have to be that order, whatever comes to you.
No, I got it. It's going to be a ribeye. It's going to be a big, well-seasoned, medium rare ribeye.
Yeah, for
with
sure.
a loaded baked potato and some good bread. Some good bread. I think that's going to be it. So it's very simple. But,
classic. Yeah.
Simple, classic. So meal, that's easy.
Okay.
Probably The Little Prince, Antoine Saint-Exupéry. It's aviation related. It's a tremendous emotional story. It's a growth story. A wonderful, wonderful book that ties in a lot of the things that I really love.
Wow.
So I think it's The Little Prince.
Okay.
Because it's probably my favorite. my music tastes are so eclectic.
Yeah, it's hard to.
I'm
I know
all
it.
over. I've always said, because people have asked this question before, I've always said bluegrass. If I had to listen to anything else for the rest of my life, it'd be
Because you
bluegrass.
lived in Nashville,
Right, because I grew up in kind of bluegrass haven. So really, I think anything.
Something bluegrass, huh?
Yeah, it'd definitely be something
You're the
bluegrass.
first person to ever answer that with bluegrass.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's part of my heritage, I think. Yeah, probably something Steep Canyon Rangers, a little Steve Martin banjo in there. I think probably, and I think this will surprise people, including my wife, but I think it's going to be What Dreams May Come. That really
With Robin
deeply
Williams?
emotional Robin Williams film.
That was amazing.
And that would not have been the case for me until I had my daughter. But the journey that he went through for his kids in that film, I get that. And I think that would probably be the one. Because, again, that ties back into so much that's
and the way it was done. I mean, I'm going to go watch that. It's been a long time since I've seen that.
You're right. I haven't seen it in a while either, but I think that would probably be the one.
I love it.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's good stuff.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you, man. It's just a pleasure to get to meet you, and super stoked about what you've already created in the short amount of time and where you're going. Is really exciting to me.
Thank you. Good. I hope so.
And I'm excited to see as this opens up, and it sounds like anyone could be a part of the new project,
Yes,
whether they're
absolutely.
in Deland or not.
Yep. Anybody really around the country. I mean, any U.S. investor will be able to join in,
fantastic.
and then, pop into Deland next time you're in Central Florida and, come create something.
That's fantastic. So we'll put links in the show notes, and I don't know when that's going to launch, but it sounds like that'll be launched by the time this episode goes out. So
Yeah,
we could have
should be.
links to that too, and we'll go from there. But anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed my time with Joey Maxwell here in Deland, Florida, man. It's just a lot of great business and life advice. Just super fun, man. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Tay. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you guys for checking in. We'll see you on the next episode of The Company Next Door.